Next, we have a very interesting session for today's generation, stepping up obesity care with injectable semaglutide. I request Dr. J.J. Mukherjee, consultant endocrinologist, Apollo Multispeciality Hospital, Kolkata. The chairpersons will be the same as before. Thank you.
I think from insulin to the oral, now coming to the injectables. I think this is a hot area nowadays.
Yes, sir.
I think one by one, I think you are talking about the injectable SEMA. I think after 1 hour, Sujoy will talk about the injectable tirzepatide.
Yes.
So your role is to where we should use the injectable SEMA. What is the role regarding the obesity care?
Thank you, Chairperson, sir.
Dr. J.J. Mukherjee does not need any introduction.
For the introduction. I need to thank APONCON for giving me this opportunity, and of course to Novo Nordisk for having me here to speak to you. Before I start, just by a show of hands, how many of you in this room are using 2.4 injectable semaglutide for management of obesity? None? So maybe after today's talk, some of you might get excited to use the molecule if the patient can afford. My talk will be a lot of science. So if you are feeling hungry, I think you might be, then maybe you can go and have some food. Because there will be a lot of data. I am being supported by Novo Nordisk for this talk, but I'll try to be as neutral as I can. Obesity is the big talk today. 30 to 40% of Indians are obese. I think in this room, probably 40% of you are obese if you follow the BMI definition of more than 25. It has been classified as a disease by AMA way back in 2013, and the most recent Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology Commission has got a huge publication on obesity, and they've defined obesity as preclinical obesity and clinical obesity. Clinical obesity means you have obesity-related manifestations. This is a very common slide. Losing and maintaining weight loss with diet and exercise alone is a constant struggle. Those of you in this room who have tried it, you would know that you do lose some weight, but then ultimately, unfortunately, you do not manage to hold on to the weight that you have lost for many reasons. Partly it's your fault, you don't continue with the diet control and exercise. Partly your body tries to acclimatize. Once you lose weight, your basal metabolic rate slows down. And that's the reason why the weight that you have lost, you can't hold on to it. And there are a number of hormones. There is the hunger hormone, ghrelin goes up. The satiety hormones, there are 5 or 6 of them. They go down and you end up eating more. So that's why you need medications for treating obesity. There are 6 of them which are licensed in the world today. Of those 6, we only have 3 in India. I think some of you in this room must have tried Orlistat before. It's not a very good anti-obesity medication, gives you a roughly 2 to 4% reduction in body weight. Now you have 2. In fact, both of them are available to us now. As the chairperson said, the next talk is on the competing molecule, which is going to come, and no other speaker than Dr. Sujoy Ghosh is going to speak on that. So I'm going to speak on the GLP-1 receptor agonist, semaglutide. See, whenever you eat, like many of us who are eating outside now, they should have stopped eating at least 15 minutes before, because their hunger is satisfied. If they follow the homeostatic regulation, 90% of the people eating outside, they should have stopped. Why they are not stopping? Because this is Taj, eating very nice food, a lot of food out there. This is called hedonistic eating. If you see the right-hand side, you eat for pleasure. When you eat, you feel happy. So what semaglutide does, it's a GLP-1 receptor agonist, it works on both pathways. It reduces your physiological hunger, and it also reduces food cravings. Now, a huge amount of work has been done with semaglutide injectable. If you see the number of studies listed on this slide, this is a work of over 20 to 30 years. I mean, I don't know how many billions have been spent in doing these studies. They're called the STEP studies, step 1 to step 11. There's a step 10 study, and they have got effect of injectable semaglutide on the various organs. Now you know management of type 2 diabetes is not just sugar, it's basically organ protection. And SGLT2 inhibit the GLP-1 RA agonist semaglutide 2.4 has got data on cardiovascular benefit, on heart failure. Look at the extreme right-hand side, on MASH outcomes. And those of you who are following the literature would know that just 2 days ago, semaglutide 2.4 got the FDA approval as a medication to be used in MASLD. There are a lot of Indian patients, you are hearing about all the molecules. On the right-hand side is the oral semaglutide. In the middle is the injectable 1 milligram semaglutide. And what I'm talking today is semaglutide 2.4 milligrams. All of these trials have got a large number of Indian patients. Every meeting we go, always we have someone who raises his hand and asks, so what about Indian data, sir? So just don't ask that question, because these are not huge number of Indian patients included in the trials, but there are a fair number of Indian patients included. Time permitting, I'm tasked to share these 3 trials with you: Step 1, Step 4, Step 5, and the SELECT trial. Whenever you go to any obesity meeting, which I'm sure you will be going more and more now, because obesity is the talk of the town now, for the next 5 years, you will see at least 8 to 10 new molecules being introduced for management of obesity. So at least be careful about when you read the obesity literature. What is being presented to you? Does the patient with obesity have diabetes or no diabetes? Diabetes with obesity, they lose half the weight as compared to people with obesity who don't have diabetes, whichever molecule they are using. And then you see whether they are reflecting it in kilograms or as percentage of weight loss. And always see whether they have done a placebo subtraction. Don't get carried away by 19%, 22%, because if the placebo arm has lost 5%, then the effective weight loss is only 17%. And always focus on the estimands. I told you this is a little bit technical, a little bit difficult. Always focus on the estimands, because the true estimands they report the trials on. One is called the treatment regimen estimand, and all the slides that you're going to see henceforth, because these are not my slides, Novo slides, you'll be seeing the efficacy estimand. Efficacy estimand is always more. Why? In efficacy estimand, the weight loss is always more because they are presuming that all the patients took the drug throughout the trial without any rescue medication or dropping out. Whereas actually we should be looking at the treatment policy estimand. Why? That's more like real world. Why? Suppose you take 100 patients, you give semaglutide 2.4, not all 100 complete the trial. Many drop out along the way. So you should calculate total weight loss including these patients. So there are 2 estimands, treatment and efficacy. They both have their roles. We can discuss that later. So this is the Step 1 trial. Step 1 trial is semaglutide 2.4. I'll take the trade name one. It's called Wegovy. 2.4 milligrams in people with overweight. Definition of overweight is BMI more than 27 and obesity is BMI more than 30. This is the Western definition. And anybody and everybody who had BMI more than 27 had to have one obesity-related effect to be included in the trial. Whenever you're going to use semaglutide 2.4, just see every trial you will see this. Every 4 weeks they up the dose. 0.25 for 4 weeks, 5.5 for 4 weeks, 1.0 for 4 weeks. From 1 you go up to 1.7, then 2.4. Those of you in this room who are contemplating using this, remember that. Don't rush increasing the dose of semaglutide, otherwise you'll end up with GI side effects. And this is the picture slide. Observe body weight change over time. The mean baseline weight was 105 kilos, BMI was 38, and if you see there was 16.9% reduction. I've highlighted trial product estimand. The treatment product estimand was slightly lower, 0.8% lower, forget that. You have to subtract from the placebo, so actually you got a 14.5% weight loss, but if you want to tell, the slide tells you there was a 16.9% reduction from week 0 to week 68. All the obesity trials, when you go to any meeting you will see all the diabetes trials are for 40 weeks. All the obesity trials will be for 68 to 72 weeks. And this is clinically meaningful weight loss is always more than 5%. Any drug which has to be marketed as a weight loss drug should show at least more than 5% body weight loss. And by the trial product estimand, 9 out of 10 people using semaglutide 2.4 will lose at least 5%. So whenever you're going to starting Wegovy 2.4 to your patient, don't tell them that all will lose weight. No. 1 out of 10 will not lose more than 5% body weight. So be very careful up front. It's an expensive drug. You start, the patient may come back and charge you, Dr. Mukherjee, I did not lose weight. If you come to more than 20% weight loss, that is when you're in business. At 20% weight loss, you're talking about remission of diabetes. You're talking about reversal of MASLD. 1 in 3, that's quite substantial. 1 in 3 persons will lose more than 20% body weight if you are using semaglutide 2.4 injectable over a period of 68 weeks as they used in Step 1 trial. And but natural that once you lose weight, waist circumference, look at that. Warn the patient, pant ta 3-4 bar kintu paltate hobe kimba belter futo gulo badate hobe. 15 centimeter change divided by 2.5 comes to about 6 inches. You lose 6 inches of your waist. 7 millimeters systolic blood pressure drop, HbA1c dropped, they were non-diabetic patients. Quite a few people had pre-diabetes. It was 0.5%, diastolic 3 millimeter, and C-reactive protein. Nowadays, the talk is inflammation, inflammation, inflammation. All cardiovascular outcomes are inflammation-based. So nowadays, any drug which is used in cardiovascular disease has to show reduction in inflammation. And look at the CRP reduction, 58%. That was step 1. Now step 4. Second question which the patient asked you, Dr. Babu, amar ojon kombe to? Ha kombe. Koto chance, Dr. Babu? 90% chance. Dr. Babu, kotota kombe? At least 5% kombe. Tumi jodi bhagyo bhalo thake, 30% chance you will lose 20% weight. Next question is, Dr. Babu, kot din oshud ta nite hobe? Eto dami oshud, pocket futo hoye jacche. So this is the trial which tells you koto din nite hobe. I think Surmount 4 also is there. He will be sharing the data on Surmount 4. So I'm not going to the details, because I told you it's a pre-lunch, post-lunch session. Just know that step 4 trial was done. In step 4 trial, what they did, this is an important slide. They gave semaglutide, they gradually increased the dose over a period of 20 weeks. I told you, you're going every 4 weeks, you're increasing the dose, 0.51, 0.5, 0.25, 0.5, 0.751. So it takes you 20 weeks to reach your maximum tolerated dose. At that point, if you see, there was a 10.6% weight loss. Why? Because not all were on maximal dose. What they did here now, after 20 weeks, that is after 5 months, they divided the groups, they randomized the groups into 2. One half did not get any more semaglutide, they got placebo. And the lower half, they continued on the maximum tolerated dose of semaglutide, which was either 1.7 or 2.4 milligrams. Naturally, the group which continued lost much more weight, and here you see this is the highest weight they lost, 18.2% with semaglutide, up to a week of 68. Important point to note is the one who received for 5 months, তারপর ওষুধ বন্ধ করে দেয়া হলো, they gain weight back, but they did not gain it back to what they started with baseline. I did not put the value, it's about 5% weight loss they had, even at 68 weeks. তো যদি পেশেন্ট জিজ্ঞেস করে, ডাক্তার পকেটে পয়সা নেই, কি করবো? তুমি 5 মাস নাও, বন্ধ করো, তোমাকে বলতে পারি যে আরো 1 বছর তোমার about 5 to 6% weight loss থাকবে, যদি তুমি exercise koro and have 500 calories fluid deficit. All these trials, even the tirzepatide trials, were based on 500 calorie food restriction and exercise 150 minutes per week. This is step 5. Step 5 was done by Novo to show that yes, semaglutide does work over a long period of time. All the steps have got some tweaks. Step 5 was long-term maintenance. The same way the trial was done, all you see is the duration of the difference now, it is 104 weeks. That means for 2 years. That is the longest trial data they have with semaglutide 2.4. And as I said, look, lifestyle intervention, 500 kilocalorie deficit and 150-minute physical activity. And look at that. Again, semaglutide stops at that level, 14 to 16 to 18%. So over 2 years, they had a 16.7% reduction. In this, the placebo, surprisingly didn't do too well. It lost about 0.6%. So you still get placebo subtracted, which I want. I want always a placebo subtracted data, which was 16.1%. And more than 20% weight loss was seen in 1 in 3 people. So what do you say to a patient? You starting this expensive medicine, it's a once weekly injectable, go up every week, and I can tell you that you have a 90% chance of losing more than 5 kilos. If you can take it for 2 years, if your money allows, you have a 30% chance of losing more than 20% of body weight. If your money does not allow, you can stop after 5 months, and I can still tell you that over the next 1 year, you would still have about 5 to 6% body weight loss. And you can always, the rest we can discuss during question and answer session, ki tarpore ki korbo Dr. Babu. Now comes side effects. I told you all the good things about semaglutide, right? Now what about the side effects? Side effects are always GI. Before you start semaglutide, there should be no history of pancreatitis. You're duty bound. There should be no history of medullary carcinoma either in the patient or in the family. No history of MEN2A. Very rare. I don't know how many I have seen. I don't know. So if you can see the adverse effects, it's primarily GI side effects. If you can see step 1, obese people without diabetes. Step 4, they stopped after 5 months, followed up for another year. Step 5, over 2 years duration. GI side effects happen in 74, 41, and 82%. I have better GI side effect slides. I won't show that. I'll show that later. The last part is, Dr. Mukherjee, very good. You're losing weight, you're showing me blood pressure reduction, you're showing me HSCRP reduction. But what happens in real life? I can see our cardiologist there. So for you now, SELECT trial. Prakash there. The SELECT trial was one of the largest cardiovascular outcome trials on obese people who were non-diabetic. So here they went up to semaglutide 2.4. Again, the inclusion criteria is same. overweight or obesity, BMI more than 27, and one obesity-related event, age more than 45, all of them had to have established CVD, something like the EMPIRIC outcome trial. All had established CVD. No prior history of diabetes. Almost, if I'm not wrong, almost 55 to 60% had pre-diabetes, but none of them had diabetes. Large trial and huge number of patients, 17,000 patients. It's not that they've done us a favor by taking 17,000 patients, because that was statistical calculation to show superiority over placebo in obese people who don't have diabetes. To show a significant superiority, they needed so many patients. Don't get wrong, no company will do 17,000 patients, they don't have to. They were duty bound to do 17,000. So this talk I hear, largest trial, doesn't make any difference to me, sorry. You needed so many patients to get your positive outcome. What was the primary outcome? Primary outcome was 3P MACE. So good, at least they're doing what all other drugs have done. Cardiovascular death, non-fatal MI, non-fatal stroke. I just heard that question, we can come to that later, why different outcomes and different endpoints. And there were some confirmatory secondary endpoints, very important for SELECT trial, because remember, cardiovascular death was the first secondary outcome. Those of you who follow statistics, when you do secondary outcome, it's always hierarchical. If you miss your first cut, you cannot talk about the composite heart failure all-cause death benefits. You can say, yes, there probably was benefit, it's hypothesis generating, maybe if you do another trial, we'll get benefit. It looks like there will be benefit, but you cannot say, because you have missed the statistical bus because you lose the first secondary outcome. If you get positive with the first secondary outcome, then you go for the next one, heart failure. I'm telling you this because you will see why. This is the picture slide. This was the first time an anti-obesity drug in obese people without diabetes showed a statistically significant 20% reduction in 3P MACE. This is not important. Now, risk reduction in MACE were evident soon after initiation. Same thing Dr. Sujay Majumdar was telling you. Whenever you use GLP-1, the benefit is not because just of weight reduction. It's a mixed bag. It's pleiotropic benefit. Effect of GLP-1, all the other major risk factors going down, inflammation going down, also weight going down, also some degree of HbA1c reduction. But if you see, the maximum weight loss was achieved at around 14 months. And if you see the curves, they're separating as early as 3 months. So these are all extra reading into what you find in the trial, but all it tells you is it was not entirely because of weight reduction. So all you can tell your patient, obese patient, if he or she can afford, if you're giving 2.4 milligrams of semaglutide injectable weekly, you can tell them that there is a 20% chance of reduction of 3P MACE. Now this 3P MACE was driven by all three put together, so not any one particular showed a huge amount of benefit. This slide should be upside down novo. If you see, if you start reading from the bottom, 15% reduction in the risk of CV death in the semaglutide 2.4 group. Just look at the confidence interval, 0.71 to 1.01. So they missed the first secondary outcome in the hierarchy. So even though you see in this graph, there was a 19% reduction in all-cause death, there was an 18% reduction in the composite of heart failure outcomes, yes, you could say that semaglutide 2.4 in obese people without diabetes used over that duration of time will give benefit with regards to all-cause death and heart failure, but that is more of a hypothesis generation because they've missed the CV death in the secondary outcome. So what have we heard so far? We heard that semaglutide 2.4 is a drug which is to be given injectable once a week. The dose has to be increased gradually, once every 4 weeks. I'm stressing again, because with my experience I'm telling you, if you try to rush, you will miss, because GI side effects are quite prominent. So go up every 4 weeks with 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1.72, 0.4, and with that you get weight reduction to a tune of about 16% if you use it for 68 weeks, and to a tune of about 16 to 17% if you use the duration of 2 years. If you use it for 5 months and stop, your patients still have about a 5% weight loss over 1 year. And if you use it in people with obesity, you have a 20% reduction in 3P MACE. So what stops you using it in everybody? It's basically GI side effects. If you see, these are basically step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, just look up to step 4. Don't look at the last bar, I don't have time to explain to you. 74, 63, 82, 71%. So 3 out of 4 people, you start on semaglutide, you have to hold their hands in the beginning because they will get GI side effects. And look at the side effects. On the left is the nausea. 44, 34, 58. So when I start, I tell my patient, 1 in 2 chance you will get nausea. So be careful, go slow. Don't eat too much of fatty food. Whenever you come to Taj, Leela, or Apocon conference, don't eat so much of fatty food out there because you're going to get nausea. Look at vomiting, 1 in 4. Those of you who have used this molecule or the other molecule would have the experience. Patients call you. And if you see diarrhea, 1 in 3. So that's how I remember. Whenever I used to do my MBBS studies, I used to divide side effects as to how much, 1 in 2, 1 in 3, 1 in 4. So here it's very easy to remember. 1 in 4 vomiting, 1 in 3 diarrhea, 1 in 2 will get nausea. And if you hold their hands properly, they should be able to get over these side effects, provided they eat smaller meals, frequent meals, less fatty food, don't gobble up the food, and any food which is giving them these side effects if they avoid. Second contraindication, both for tirzepatide and for semaglutide, is diabetic retinopathy. This is an open area. I've just highlighted the last three lines. There's no experience with this is from the package insert, and from Novo package insert. There's no experience with semaglutide injection in people with type 2 diabetes with uncontrolled or potentially unstable diabetic retinopathy. As to what uncontrolled or potentially, I'll just take another 2 minutes. What potentially uncontrolled or potentially unstable diabetic retinopathy means, I don't know. So what my understanding is, if you have background retinopathy, just dot and blot hemorrhages with no macular edema, you're still okay to use GLP-1. But the moment you have macular edema, or if you have any form of proliferative diabetic retinopathy, you should not be using a GLP-1 receptor agonist. Still more data comes, which is supposed to come in 2027. All of you know the trial is called the FOCUS trial. Semaglutide is doing it. Till 2027, we'll have this problem. And the last one, all of you will ask me this question, so I put these slides for you. What is NAION? Non-arteritic anterior ischemic optic neuropathy. It's basically ischemia of the optic nerve that involves 1 millimeter of the optic head. There are two kinds. Arteritic, it happens in giant cell arteritis. I used to see in my MBBS days, MD days, now I have not seen one. And non-arteritic. So can occur at any age, but most commonly affects individuals over 50. Look at the incidence. 10 out of 1, so 1 in 10,000. I mean, having said that, I should have seen NAION, but surprisingly, I have not seen. I want to hear the experience of our chairpersons, etc., as to how many of NAION they have seen. There's no specific gender predilection has been found, can affect any race or ethnicity. It's basically ischemia of the optic disc. It's acute, painless vision loss, which happens in one eye. Diabetes itself is a risk factor for NAION. Can I see by a show of hands how many of you have seen NAION in your life? I haven't, so I want one, sir. Because it's supposed to be 1 in 10,000. And I must have seen 10,000 patients with diabetes by now. If not, then I'm not practicing enough. And I have not seen, anybody? Sujay, you, Kullan, you have seen NAION? Coronary heart disease. We got Prakash there. How many, have you seen CAD so often? Have you seen any NAION, somebody coming with blindness? Have? Okay. Hypertension, hyperlipidemia, OSA. So many of us have used PDE5 inhibitors. How many have we seen? So this is last two slides. So this is what's with semaglutide. It's not known as to whether semaglutide causes NAION or not. NAION is not so common. 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 100,000 will get NAION. Whether it's semaglutide or whether it's diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia per se, if they're taking any PDE5 inhibitors, if that is the cause, we don't know. But to be on the safe side, FDA has not given any stick as yet. Two people have given a stick, a warning. One is the EMA. EMA just about 1.5 months ago have said that it is a rare, very rare side effect, 1 in 10,000. When this is very rare, you read the last line, is 1 in 10,000. So whenever you're starting Wegovy or whenever you're starting any medication, you tell your patients about side effects. Previously, we used to only warn about GI side effects, but henceforth, I also mentioned that if you have any visual problems, let me know. And same thing the WHO also tells you. So this is my last slide. Semaglutide 2.4, Wegovy, is suitable for adult patients, 18 and above. I did not discuss the Wegovy teen study, with a BMI of 27 in the presence of at least one weight-related comorbidity, be it coronary artery disease, hypertension, dyslipidemia, osteoarthritis, OSA, whichever. Or Some patients come and tell me, Dr. Mukherjee, give me this drug for weight loss, and their BMI is 28. I tell them, please come with one excuse. Tell me you have osteoarthritis. Otherwise, I can't start. Because legally, you have to have at least one obesity-related comorbidity. Or if your BMI is more than 30, I can start. 20% weight loss in 1 in 3 people, 5% weight loss in 9 out of 10. Mean weight loss, as I showed you all the step 1, step 4 and step 5. I'm sure all this will not go into so quickly. You have to hear more and more, and you will be hearing us talking about these trials again and again. About 15 to 70% weight loss, sustained weight loss over 4 years. That data I think tirzepatide is still not have. Soon they will come up with that data. And 27% significant MACE reduction versus placebo on top of standard of care in people with obesity without diabetes. With that, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the time is over, but I think one question is from my end.
Yes,
Again.
sir.
The thing is that if you have in your clinic, that means the target of the patients, whether it is obese or type 2 diabetes, right? For the obesity, I think oral semaglutide we are not using.
No.
For the for the type 2 diabetes.
I'll just interrupt here. He was asking 25 and 50 milligrams.
Yes.
25 and 50 milligrams, phase 3 trials have already been done.
Yes.
They're called the OASIS studies. They showed a reasonably good amount of weight loss, as much as semaglutide 1 milligram, but they are still in the regulatory phase. They've not been licensed yet, so we can't use it for clinical practice as of now.
Yes. The question is that in cases of type 2 diabetes, we can use all these drugs like oral sema, injectable sema, or the injectable tirzepatide. I think Sujay will describe all these things. For the obesity, I think if you see the head-to-head trial with the sema and tirzepatide, I think more in favor of tirzepatide as far as the trial is concerned.
Wait. More in favor of tirzepatide with regards to what? Only more weight loss?
Yes.
That's all?
Yes.
But with regards to what we're talking about, this is a debate now, Sujay should be standing there. Then we'll have fun.
I think we will create the debate. Okay. The thing is that at this present moment, if you consider only the obesity, which one will be your preferable? And for the cardiovascular benefits, why not we should use the oral sema, not considering the obesity?
So see, it's very, very personal choice between you and the patient. It's individualization. See, previously we only had metformin, sulfonylurea and insulin. It was so much easier. When I was practicing diabetes, I did not have all this confusion. SGLT2, DPP4, GLP1, it was so easy. Same thing with weight, it was so bad. We only had orlistat before. Then came tirzepatide, and now we have got semaglutide. So now you have 2 molecules in front of you. Both are equally expensive, matched to cost. So now you have to decide between one or the other. So if you go by the quantum of weight loss, tirzepatide has done better than semaglutide in SURMOUNT 5. If you come to organ protection, at the moment, till date, organ protection data is more with semaglutide than with tirzepatide. Having said that, tirzepatide is coming with the data. I'm sure in the next about 24 months, they will have, but till that time, if you're talking about, if you're seeing some obese person who matches the select trial group, then probably if you want cardiovascular prevention, I think Dr. Prakash might want to use semaglutide over tirzepatide till we get the tirzepatide cardiovascular outcome trial data. So it's individualized. If you come to renal benefit, slightly more data with semaglutide as of now with tirzepatide. So it's an individual choice, depending on what the patient's status is.
As obesity is a chronic disease, like hypertension and diabetes, and it requires lifelong treatment in form of lifestyle modification and medicines. So after achieving a target, say 18 or 20% weight loss with SEMA 2.4, can we switch over to semaglutide 1 milligram weekly subcutaneously?
That is,
Whether it will do?
I can't give you the answer for that because we don't have any data. So, as you rightly said, if you want to use it for weight loss, you have to use it not lifelong, but for a prolonged period of time. And they have the 4-year data, which I showed you the step 5 trial. Again, we live in India. Cost is an issue. So I think more and more real world data will be generated when patient take it for a while, stop, take it for a while, stop. So if they can stick to the lifestyle modification, stick to the kind, I don't know whether you've used Wegovy or not. Once you use them, patients come and tell you they can't eat. They look at food, they sit on the table, they have half a chapati and they get up. If they can stick on to that food habits after they stop semaglutide, then maybe the weight they have lost, they will be able to hold on to it.
I think restaurants should have one Wegovy diet.
Come again, sir?
Restaurants should have one Wegovy diet.
Restaurant should have Wegovy? Novo, can you hear that? Sir is saying restaurant should have a Wegovy pen, so.
And also, I think they have got a new pants and all these things because you have shown that, I think, more than 17% inch loss, right? 17 centimeter. So it's a huge one. I think
It's about 4 to 6 inches. Can you imagine 6
Yes,
inches?
you have to buy a pant every month. So that's a very difficult one to have.
So this is also, you should warn the patient before you start becoming.
But one thing I can tell you that in the STEP 4 trial, you can see that if you omit the drug after the 6 to 7 months,
That was tirzepatide. Semaglutide was 5 months.
5 months, I think still the graph is on the upside. So I think in next 1 or 2 years probably they will catch up. That's my opinion.
Maybe we'll end up with combination therapy, like for diabetes combination therapy.
Yes.
Soon you will have
Because
small.
that curve is not flat.
But
at
this
the
is
time. Yes.
all conjecture. We should not be talking.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
BMI cutoff for use of the semaglutide injectable 27 and 30.
30.
That is for Western. Do you think that for Indian it is 25 and 27?
This has been suggested by, I won't name who, but it's also published. And it's mentioned 25 and 27. 25 with,
Yeah.
with obesity comorbidity and 27 and above. I mean, this is a consensus statement. So up to
You want-
you. If you are using it, I don't think anybody will fault you because you have a publication in a reputed journal. I would still stick to 27 and 30 because, I mean, this is a pen. We don't have enough of it as of now to use, and there are so many in this room, probably 27 or 30, who probably would. We don't have. So let's first start with the 30 and 27, and then we can come down to. If somebody comes and asks you with BMI 25, you probably could.
I think it should be end here because there are a lot of questions, a lot of areas. I think everyone can ask Dr. JJ in the outside. After the Shuja's talk, I think after the Shuja's talk we have a debate also, right? Shuja, are you prepared for the debate? Okay, always, as always. Thank you.
I request Dr. S.K. Agarwal to felicitate Dr. J.J. Mukherjee. Thank you, the panelists, for this very long session. Thank you, Dr. Kaushik Saha, Dr. M.L. Bansali, and Dr. Jayanto Datto. I request Dr. A.K. Ojha to felicitate them. Thank you all.